Hello and welcome. We are broadcasting today from All Points, Rhode Island for the release of the 2020 report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure. My name is Chad Morrison and I am President-elect of the Rhode Island section of the American Society of Civil Engineers, or ASCE. This is our first report card release for our state and we appreciate you tuning into our presentation. We wish that we could have hosted all of you at the State House or new University of Rhode Island College of Engineering campus, but the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has led us to embrace new ways of connecting. In hosting a virtual event, we are reminded that ASCE holds paramount the public's health, safety, and welfare. We welcome our ASCE colleagues and viewers who may be watching across the country or even the world to learn more about Little Rhode. We know that the quality of our infrastructure is an issue that affects every Rhode Islander, whether it is clean water to wash our hands, energy to heat our homes, or roads and bridges needed to reach our grocery stores. As residents, we rely on it daily. Our industries, who are often partners in developing infrastructure, rely on it at an even greater scale in order to meet our demands as consumers. Their operations at our ports and along our rail network expand Rhode Island's influence as a commerce hub. We will dive into the grades and contents of the report card in a bit, but the story of Rhode Island's infrastructure is often centered around our geography as the ocean state and the harsh seasons of New England that we endure. When it comes time to rehabilitate or rebuild, we need to be strategic by incorporating consensus-based codes and specifications, including ASCE standards. As we look towards the future, we need to be prudent in the way we approach projected challenges of sea level rise and climate change. Rhode Island section is the local chapter of ASCE, which is the oldest and largest engineering society in the nation. Our section was founded in 1920 and is excited to be celebrating our centennial with this publication. Volunteer Report Card Committee appreciates the support of the section members and the national staff who guided us up to today's release. As stewards of our infrastructure, civil engineers are responsible for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of our vital public works. With that responsibility comes the obligation to periodically assess the state of our infrastructure, report on its condition and performance, and advise on the necessary steps to improve it. The report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure is a snapshot tool for residents, businesses, and policymakers to engage in discussion about where we are and where we want to be. We hope that this information provides the insights needed to start that conversation. Before we get to the grades, I'd like to offer Mayor James Diossa, Mayor of Central Falls and President of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, to speak as a recipient. Mayor Diossa understands the needs of municipalities and the value of infrastructure investment. Welcome, Mayor Diossa.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I think it's a good time to spend with all of you this morning to, again, have a conversation about what this report highlights. And obviously, as elected officials, it's always important to understand these reports, and it gives us perspective and also keeps this information in front of us so that as we make decisions and policy decisions and investments, that we're doing it with the information and awareness through these types of reports. And so as the president of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, obviously infrastructure is always a priority for all municipalities in Rhode Island. And as we allocate our budgets each year, it's always with the sense of uh, upgrading every piece of infrastructure that uh, improves quality of life for our residents, such as sidewalks, parks. Obviously, we work closely with Pawtucket Water, who handles our water, and they're continuously investing in their infrastructure, as well as Narragansett Bay Commission, who does a phenomenal job and it has been a partner with many municipalities of investing in runoff water systems and sewer systems, etc. So uh, it's it's to me important that this information, which I will relate to all the members of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, to understand that there needs to be a continuous push, not only for more funding, because obviously, especially in times like these, more funding is crucial, but also our leadership and advocacy in getting Congress to really make some big investments in every state so that it trickles down to cities and towns so that we can continue making important investments as mentioned. For us in Central Falls, our partnership with Pawtucket has highlighted projects where we've been able to partner up, specifically around the train station. That project looks to be going online by 2022, and I think that that's important because for a community that has a high percentage of low-income families, mass transportation is key, and it not only is it good uh, because they can't afford it, but also it's good for air quality, it's good for our roads, wear and tear, etc. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with all of you. I know that Brian Daniels, who's the executive director, wanted to be part of this call as well, but had a prior commitment. And I will make sure that this information is brought back to the board, and I'm sure we'll have a long dialogue and reflect about what is it as leaders that we can do to continue improving. I also want to highlight Director Alvidi and the Department of Transportation, who has made a very big push of improving our roads and bridges. He's currently making a big investment in one of the state roads in Central Falls, which is Broad Street, that started this spring and is going to continue on to for the rest of the year, which will plant more trees, build better sidewalks, a better road. So we appreciate him, and he's also with the governor as well made big improvements in our actually our bridges and other infrastructures around the state that I think uh, will continue changing the way we look at infrastructure and how we invest it, make our investments so that this continues way beyond the governor's term that ends in 2022. So again, looking forward to going into detail about this report, and I will make sure to bring this back to the board so that there's important dialogue so that decisions are made to continue improving our grade for this group.
Thank you, Mayor Diosa. It's great to hear how improved infrastructure can benefit your community. We appreciate your time. Next, we'll move into the grades and recommendations on how to raise them. For that, I'll turn things over to the chair of the 2020 report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure, Nazifa Sarawat. Nazifa, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. In these trying times, the importance of our state's infrastructure as a means of planning for the future and encouraging recovery is clearer than ever. My name is Nazifa Sarawat, and I am the chair of the committee for the 2020 report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure. The 2020 report card uses a simple A to F school report format, providing a comprehensive assessment of current infrastructure conditions and needs. Without further ado, the cumulative grade for the 2020 report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure is a C-. A C- means our infrastructure is in mediocre condition and requires attention. The 2020 report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure covers 7 categories. Each category is assessed by a team of civil engineers who assign the grades according to the following 8 criteria: capacity, condition, funding, future need, operation and maintenance, public safety, resilience, and innovation. I want to highlight some of the top findings and go into the categories before I turn it over to Sarah Engel of the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority. First, this report shows that investment in offshore wind farms has been a cross-sector collaborative effort and is paying dividends for many of Rhode Island's infrastructure systems. Rhode Island is recognized as a national leader in renewable energy. Governor Gina Raimondo initiated a statewide goal for renewable energy to be the source of the entire state's electricity by 2030, an ambitious yet achievable goal. Our state is home to the first offshore wind farm in the United States, and the companies Ørsted and Eversource have invested $1 billion in expanding these wind farms, a major step towards Rhode Island's energy independence. Additionally, Rhode Island is now tied with Vermont as the 3rd most energy efficient state in the country. Our residents have taken responsibility for the state's energy output as well, as Rhode Island's 174 BTU consumption per capita ranks lowest in energy use per person in the country. The Port of Providence and the Port of Davisville each supply deep water wind with access to their facilities and terminal areas in order to assemble and construct wind turbines. The state's ports, which received the C grade, have benefited significantly from offshore wind investment, helping facilitate the construction of this energy source. Ørsted and Eversource's $1 billion investment allocates $40 million for port and infrastructure upgrades. This project and others on the horizon will create 800 construction jobs and 50 permanent operation and maintenance jobs. Rail infrastructure, which received the highest grade in the report at a B-, supports ports, which in turn supports offshore wind development. The Port of Davisville, which contributed $333 million to the economy and 1,500 jobs, depends upon the Seaview Railroad, which provides a connection to regional and Class 1 railroads in the Northeast. All of these systems are intertwined and all deserve their share of credit for Rhode Island's reputation for innovative infrastructure. Despite the urge to drive all of the state's focus towards innovation and meeting the 2030 100% renewable energy goal, the state still has pressing energy infrastructure needs to address in the short term. Many residents rely on natural gas for heating during the winter, yet unreliable aging systems contribute to bottlenecks and inadequate supply. Rhode Islanders pay more for electricity than any other state besides Hawaii. Recent energy plant closures and limited pipeline capacity are driving up costs. Currently, energy from wind turbines costs residents 26 cents per kilowatt hour, whereas energy from natural gas costs residents 20 cents per kilowatt hour. 44% of Rhode Island's gas lines are over 50 years old, making them the 4th oldest in the country. Regional grid operator ISO-NE projects $327 million is needed to address all transmission maintenance and upgrades needed in Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. Costs will continue to remain high until more wind power is made available, but additional investment is needed to ensure Rhode Island residents have the energy resources they need until the renewable goal is met. Our bridges are in desperate need of help. Bridges received the lowest grade in the report with a D-. At 22.3%, Rhode Island has the highest percentage of structurally deficient bridges in the country. Structurally deficient doesn't necessarily mean that they are at risk of failure, but it could lead to load restrictions for safety purposes. 117 of Rhode Island's 779 bridges have posted load restriction, which impacts travel times for commercial vehicles and hospitals, hurting the economy and threatening public safety. Chronic underinvestment, coupled with the wear and tear of de-icing agents used to make bridges safe for travel during Rhode Island's harsh winters, has accelerated the decline of these structures. Fortunately, the state is now taking steps to combat underinvestment with roadworks, a funding plan to fix more than 150 structurally deficient bridges and perform necessary maintenance on an additional 500 bridges. The 10-year budget for roadworks is $5 billion. Rhode Island is one of the oldest states in the nation, and its infrastructure is aging as well. However, the state has done a good job keeping up with maintenance. Much like bridges, roads are in dire need of repair. Rhode has identified more than $378 million in unfunded pavement maintenance and reconstruction needs. Roads will also receive money from roadworks. Providence is the largest drinking water treatment facility in New England and is nearly 100 years old, but has managed to provide quality service to nearly 60% of Rhode Island's residents due to continued maintenance and upgrades. The utility has invested $460 million into capital improvements and replacements since 1996, covering 86 miles of pipelines. The same trend can be seen with the wastewater treatment plants. Our average wastewater treatment plant is 69 years old, but 16 of the 19 facilities have been upgraded since 2000. Despite these upgrades, the state's Water Quality 2035 plan determined that many of the pipelines are vulnerable to leakage. Finally, Rhode Island faces many challenges due to sea level rise, harsh winters, and underinvestment. According to the Rhode Island Statewide Climate Resilience Action Strategy, sea level in the state is expected to rise 10 feet by 2100. Due to its 400 miles of coastline and major inland watersheds, 90 of the state's bridges could be at risk in the event of just a 7-foot increase in sea level. If exposed to just 1% storm surge, in addition to the sea level rise, 163 bridges could be impacted. Through roadworks, Rhode adopted an asset management program to predict life cycle fluctuations caused by environmental and de-icing impacts. Ports have also taken initiative for disaster preparedness. In 2017, emergency bypass connections were installed at 2 Davisville pumping stations to improve sewage and debris removal during extreme events. Wastewater treatment plants have undergone assessments but still have more to do to be prepared for future events. The Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management conducted base flood elevation assessments on the state's 19 wastewater treatment plants. Based on its findings, Rhode will require existing wastewater treatment plants to include flood response and recovery tactics in all facility designs. The majority of these grades are not where we want them to be. However, our infrastructure systems have faced numerous challenges. Compounding the challenges are the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on infrastructure revenue streams, and we still don't know the long-term impacts. Yet, Rhode Island has shown it's ready for these challenges and more with its innovative and trend-setting approaches and dedication to addressing resilience issues in ways many states have not. If we are ready to improve our infrastructure, ASC has some suggestions to start raising the grades. First, we must continue to support Roadworks' plan and its emphasis on reaching a state of good repair for bridges and roads. We should also advocate for additional long-term federal and state funding programs to add to Roadworks. Second, improving freight and landside connections to ports will strengthen the entire freight system. Improved transportation will reduce congestion that is costly to the state's economy when moving goods. Third, we must expand in-state capacity for electricity generation to improve services and reduce costs. We can accomplish that by supporting renewable power generation with financial incentives, regulations that promote growth, and industrial resources. Fourth, Rhode Island needs to continue developing infrastructure resiliency plans that address natural disasters and man-made extreme events. The impacts of climate variations, such as sea level rise and extreme storm events, need to be incorporated into the design, operation and maintenance, and expansion of all types of infrastructure to improve community resilience. Finally, the state needs to pivot to new construction, rehabilitation, and post-disaster rebuilds towards the use of consensus-based codes, specifications, and standards. Without the necessary codes and standards, recovery efforts won't be nearly as effective and will end up costing the state time and money, along with putting citizens at risk. Now that we've gone through the report's findings, I will let Chad introduce you to our next speaker.
Thank you, Nazifa, for the grades and details. We'll have time to take questions about the report's findings shortly. Right now, I'm proud to introduce Sarah Engel, Manager of Long Range Planning for Rhode Island Public Transit Authority. Sarah will be explaining RIPTA's initiatives for providing last mile service and efforts to improve energy efficiency.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting us to join today. It's a privilege, and we're excited to be a part of this. Just a quick note to tag on to some of the items in the report card that are really central to the mission of RIPTA and to the public transit system. First of all, we are beneficiaries under the Roadworks program that in the out years is going to free up some dollars for transit improvements, and we have been working really closely with Rhode over the last, well, really always, to make sure that we have a seamlessly integrated bus and rail network for our state and our region. And so we are super thrilled about Roadworks and the opportunity that brings for us to do better for our community. Part of the benefit of that is going to be reduced congestion obviously for the freight network and for people everywhere on our roads. We know that that's a priority, so we want to be a part of that. We are working to green our fleet right now. We have a battery electric bus pilot and are doing a lot of research around that, working closely with National Grid around resiliency, as well as moving towards a zero emission fleet so that we can do our part, kind of lead by example on the climate side. So all of these are things that we're really excited about that I think probably resonate with some of the things that you're focusing on. And again, we're really just happy to be a part of this conversation. So specifically working towards the question of first mile, last mile connectivity. Before I jump into that, just a quick couple words about RIPTA in general. For folks who don't know us that well, we are the state's statewide public transit provider. We provide, pre-COVID, we were providing 50,000 passenger trips a day. A little over a month ago at the nadir, we were down to about 15,000 trips a day, and we're now up to about 20. So at no point were people not riding the bus, and we're really proud that we were able to maintain our full schedule of service and to be an essential partner in getting essential workers to work. So that, again, pre-COVID adds up to about 16 plus million passenger trips a year. We operate 59 fixed routes, 240 fixed route buses. And a big important part of that work that we do is connecting folks to the broader regional transportation network, including regional rail. Our main focus is in the Providence metro area because that's where most people live and work, but we do provide service statewide, in particular we have a hub in Newport and another center of service in the northern part of the state in Woonsocket and that area. So although we are statewide, a lot of our focus, especially on the first mile, last mile, is within the Providence metro area. And that ranges from, in terms of rail connections, from TF Green Airport, where MBTA comes through, Providence Station in downtown, South Attleboro Station, we provide cross-border service into Massachusetts to help folks get to the commuter rail in South Attleboro to and from. And we're working really closely with Rhode and the cities of Pawtucket and Central Falls on the new rail intermodal hub that is being constructed right now there, and that's going to be a new RIPTA hub as well. And we are super excited about that opportunity. So within that core area, we have a number of key routes that connect through all of those locations. Route 1 picks folks up and drops them off at South Attleboro and brings them through downtown all the way to the airports. Our R-Line, which is our highest ridership and most frequent service, connects from Pawtucket through downtown to the Cranston city limit through Providence Station, and that brings a huge number of people in both directions, connecting those key locations every day. And we are in the very early days of a new service that we're super excited about, which is the Downtown Transit Connector. It's a high-frequency trunk that brings several routes together from the south through the hospital district and downtown and the financial district up through Providence Station and beyond to the north with 5-minute frequency all day long. And it just went into service in January and has been doing really, really well. And we think that's a model for kind of in the future how we can continue to grow connections, again, between local destinations and the broader regional network, including rail service. As I mentioned earlier, we are working really closely with Rhode and have been doing so, especially very intensely over the last couple of years on some long-range planning, looking at how we improve connections as a state up to the Boston region, how we strengthen our partnerships with the MBTA commuter rail system and with Amtrak. There are some really exciting grants that have been awarded and that we're seeking grant funds, where Rhode is seeking grant funds to continue that work. So those are all things. But just before I finish, there's one other thing that I did want to say, which is that not to be completely focused on downtown Providence and the Metro Core, we do have a hub in Newport. We are working and over the last year or so have done a lot to improve our service to Quonset Business Park and to strengthen connections there. And as well to the north, we received a grant to develop a significant grant to develop a hub at URI. And so we are going to be enhancing our South County, really the whole West Bay area, everything from Warwick on down, so that folks can then, if you're coming in on Amtrak to Kingston Junction, you can get up into the city, you can get over into Newport faster and more frequently than ever before. These are things that are going to take some time to unfold. But it's a lot of stuff that we're very excited about. Again, it's a lot of partnerships with Rhode and municipalities, and we've been thrilled to have been able to do all of this so far. The current situation with the pandemic has slowed things down, but not in any way put a halt to any of it. So we're gonna keep looking forward and are gonna continue to enjoy working with Central Falls and all of the other municipalities in which we provide service to really make a better and more seamless transit network for the state of Rhode Island. Thank you again so much for inviting us here today. That's it.
Thank you, Sarah, for your remarks this morning. Your insight is greatly appreciated. It is wonderful to hear about the steps being taken to ensure our transit systems can get us where we need to go. Next, I'd like to welcome James McCahey, Director of Administration, and David Bowen, Engineering Manager. Both are from the Narragansett Bay Commission to explain their role in providing wastewater services and protecting our environment. David and James, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chad. It's a pleasure being here, and Jim's with me in the conference room as well. But wanted to take a moment just to talk about the Narragansett Bay Commission. And because we take infrastructure and the criticality of infrastructure here in our state very seriously as it relates intimately with our overall mission statement here at the Commission. But Narragansett Bay Commission, we're a quasi-public agency, and we're the largest wastewater authority within the state of Rhode Island. We own, operate, and maintain two of the largest wastewater facilities or wastewater plants in the state. We're responsible for 110 miles of interceptor pipes. Many of these are combined sewers, and some of our oldest pipes were installed back as late as 1873. So we also have a large diameter, 3-mile combined sewer tunnel below the city of Providence. That's 26-foot diameter and stores a little over 60 million gallons of elevated wet weather flow during a rain event. And we have 6 pump stations. In all, the Bay Commission, we service 10 communities, with the vast majority of our client base being in the most urbanized areas of the state, that being Providence, Pawtucket, and North Providence. And in total, we service over 370 customers, which represents in Rhode Island over 34% of our state. So the Narragansett Bay Commission, our mission statement is to take a leadership role in the protection and enhancement of water quality here in the state, specifically Narragansett Bay and its tributary areas. So it's a lofty mission statement whereby we feel we're protecting over 400 miles of our environmentally sensitive coastline in the state of Rhode Island, which is our most valuable resource here in the state. So, as I said, we have two of the largest wastewater plants in Rhode Island. Our largest one is our Fields Point facility located in Providence. And it's an advanced wastewater plant that we've upgraded numerous times over the years and for advanced treatment to control water, improve water quality in Narragansett Bay. And it's designed to treat up to 77 million gallons a day. But during a rainstorm, when flows pick up due to our combined sewer system, we can effectively treat upwards of 123 million gallons per day. Our other wastewater plant is located on the other side of the Seekonk River. It's in East Providence. It's the second largest in the state. That's the Buckland Point wastewater plant. That plant, too, we've had to upgrade several times over the years, both due to aging infrastructure, but also ever more challenging environmental regulations and requirements. It's an advanced treatment plant that we can treat 46 million gallons per day, and during a wet weather storm event, treat upwards of 116 million gallons per day. So as I said, at the Bay Commission, we have a lot of old infrastructure, but it's been well maintained over the years. But we're subject to ever-changing environmental policy and regulations. So being an old system, we have many combined sewers. In fact, there were 64 combined sewers within our network and service area. So back in 1992, the NBC embarked on a federally mandated long-term CSO program and entered a consent agreement with our local regulator, Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, to address these 65 CSOs within our Fields Point and Buckland Point service area. And we broke this program out to a 3-phase CSO program to improve water quality, with the ultimate goal of reducing overflow events to less than 4 per year out of these overflows, and result in a 80% reduction in the environmentally sensitive shellfishing beds that are so important to the economy and welfare of the state of Rhode Island. So this CSO program, we completed our first phase. It was completed back roughly in 2008. We expended $360 million constructing a large 3-mile tunnel below the city of Providence. And that addressed 40% of our combined sewer overflows. No sooner was that project completed, we advanced the program further and completed our Phase 2 CSO program back in 2015. We invested another $197 million to further extend the tunnel system and network. So to date, we've spent roughly $557 million alone just on our CSO program. But over the past 10 years, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 program have had significant environmental benefit. And we've treated in excess of 10 billion gallons of combined sewer, which would have previously entered Narragansett Bay without any treatment. So it's been a very positive thing throughout the state. We're now embarking on the third and final chapter or phase of our regulated CSO program, called that our Phase 3 program. This represents the largest capital project that we have ongoing here at the Bay Commission. And it's a program that'll be completed over 2 decades, or the next 20 years. We've broken the program out into 4 phases, A, B, C, and D. We're actively designing the Phase A improvements right now. Part of our consent agreement for each phase, we're going to invest $10 million in green infrastructure to help control wet weather flow in the service area. But the Phase 3 program will cost about $755 million. It's going to include another tunnel system, this time servicing our Buckland Point wastewater plant running under the city of Pawtucket and up into the mayor's community of Central Falls. It'll be a 30-foot diameter tunnel located about 150, 200 feet below the ground. And again, it'll store just under 60 million gallons of wet weather flow. So the CSO program is just one example of capital improvement programs that the Bay Commission has in how we value our infrastructure and its criticality to not just our ratepayers, but the entire state of Rhode Island. Having an older, aging infrastructure system, we're continually investing in our infrastructure, in our treatment plants, collection system, pump stations, so on and so forth. So with that, I just appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit on the Bay Commission and how we participate or play a role here in our infrastructure in the state of Rhode Island. But with all the hard work we do, our goal is we're looking for an A+ in our infrastructure, and we have that commitment. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave Bowen and James McCarty of the Narragansett Bay Commission for their insight and for all the work that they've done. We now invite questions from the audience. If you have a question, please type in the chat that you'd like to ask a question, and our moderator will unmute you. Please also state your name and organization in the chat box. All questions on the report card will be directed to Chad and me, while questions on specific remarks from our agencies or elected officials will be directed to their specific public information offices.
All right. Hey, guys. Chad, I'm going to mute you for a second. I'm going to ask some questions that we've gotten from the audience of the people that are watching. The first one, Chad, was directed towards Mayor Diosa, but you said that you could answer it, which is, will there be bathrooms and an indoor waiting facility in the new train/bus hub?
I believe so. The new train station in Pawtucket and Central Falls is going to be a major overhaul of the historic station. It's been abandoned for years, but you're going to be seeing some new life there. Details on that project can be found on the Rhode website.
Awesome. Second question, what about public transit? More bus hubs, rapid transit, etc. would improve transit. Why does ASCE have rail as one of its categories, but not public transit? given that many more people in the state use RIPTA over the MBTA and Amtrak?
Public transit is an essential part of Rhode Island's infrastructure, and it moves many people every day. And we would love to include it in future iterations of the report card. However, this year it is our first year conducting the state report card, and it is conducted by volunteers and ASCE staff. And so the categories in the report card are dependent on availability of volunteers to research, review, assess each category. So to create this report card, committee compiled and assessed technical reports, based on publicly available data. And so we basically did what we could with the volunteers we had, and we really hope to include important category like transit in future iterations. But we do want to recognize RIPTA's role and transit's role in its connection to other categories such as rail and energy.
Our bridges got a D-. Is it safe to travel on them?
So structurally deficient bridges, the Rhode Island has the highest percentage of structurally sufficient bridges, and that is a big factor in why our grade was so low. However, structurally deficient does not necessarily mean it's imminent to failure, but it does mean that there are often load restrictions and often closures to traffic, and so that has a big impact on trucks passing through, having to redirect truck routes or medical vehicle routes. So it does impact the economy of Rhode Island, the public safety of Rhode Island, but for our bridges are safe to travel on for now.
We have a question. Is Roadworks prioritizing certain bridges for repairs?
Yes. Part of the initiative is using technology to map where the problem areas are and assessing the conditions and prioritizing accordingly. There's a lot of new high-tech features and software available to manage that list.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any updates on Kennedy Plaza? I don't think that you had them, but are there any updates on Kennedy Plaza?
We can redirect that question to RIPTA so that they can give a better answer on specific.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. ASCE is calling for more spending, but aren't engineers the one that intend to benefit?
Everyone benefits from improved infrastructure. Our neighborhoods, our communities, professionals, residents, industry, you name it. So we're looking to raise awareness across the board.
All right, and I believe this is the final question, unless more come in right now. The energy rates in Rhode Island are among some of the nation's highest. So then why is the state investing in the most expensive renewable source?
So we're looking ahead from private investors to add offshore wind farms to our state. We've seen it be cost effective for reducing the actual rates on Block Island, and statewide that would require a larger wind farm to bring down that rate with volume and hopefully match or exceed, well, not exceed, but reduce the rate that we're currently paying. That would be certainly a goal, and plus we get the benefit of clean energy and capturing the cost of a source that we produce ourselves in the state. So the industry and the state benefits by recouping the expense of generation.
Awesome. That's all the questions that we have right now. Thank you very much. Thank
you. I'd like to close. I'd like to close by saying that the future of our state relies on our ability to implement the solutions laid out today. Our infrastructure drives economic growth, creates jobs, and protects us from Mother Nature's worst conditions. As we continue to strive for 100% renewable energy use and consider creative solutions to our future problems, it is important that we don't overlook any of our vital infrastructure sectors along the way. While Rhode Island is known for its beautiful coastline, which attracts residents and tourists alike, our infrastructure must be resilient against any hazards of the 21st century. We work hard to build and maintain our systems for the public's health, safety, and welfare, and we ask that our policymakers review the 2020 report card for Rhode Island's infrastructure when making infrastructure policy that affects our citizens. I'd like to once again thank our committee who diligently completed the report card this year. I'd like to extend a special thanks to our speakers for sharing their insights today. Thank you all for joining us. I'd like to give thanks to our chair of the report card, Nazifa. She's been the glue on this whole operation. And the ASCE staff, Christine, Alexa, and Anna, and Kevin. You've really motivated us. And I'd like to thank our report card committee, Tabor and Tim, and wish our senior advisor, Larry Smith, a happy birthday. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to email us at reportcard@asce.org. Again, an email address is reportcard@asce.org. I'd like to thank Ben, our producer today, and I'd like to remind everyone to stay healthy and safe out there. Thanks for watching.